120. My name's Gabe Tesch, and I'm in 6th grade.
Welcome to Brands Hatch and the British Racing and Sports Car Club's 51st running of the Formula Ford Festival.
Abdul Ahmed, alongside Gabe Tesch, who's been one of our rookie drivers for Team Dolan this year. Then the defending Brian Jones Trophy winner, Matt Rivette. He was a late entry on Tuesday, but he starts 11th alongside Sam Street on the 6th row of the grid. Ben Maludi, who I think is a former Formula V champion. Formula Ford Festival 2022 gets underway. It's a cracking start from Gabe Tesch from, what was it, row 5 and row 6. He's already alongside Megan Gilks as they head down towards paddock for the first time. They're almost 3 abreast into turn 1, but Robbie Parks, a clean start from pole.
We discovered that Gabe had cancer when he was 11 years old.
Being 11 and finding out I had brain cancer was like, I was just so scared and terrified.
It was not as much about next month and next year anymore. It was all about today.
Gabe feels like he wants to make the most of every single day.
Cancer maybe has focused his life, made him realize that this is what I want to do, and I've got today, right now I've got today to do it. You can just as easily die walking down the street as you can in a race car.
Oh, goodness me! Oh, goodness me!
Climbing the racing ladder isn't just about driving. I mean, obviously you've got to be fast, you've got to progress quickly and be on the sharp end of the stick, but there's so much more.
Seven years ago, 6 years ago, I was fighting cancer, and now I'm in a full-blown race car racing in Europe, and to finally have that moment was like the best feeling ever. My name is Gabe Tesch, and I am a brain cancer survivor and now a race car driver.
We discovered that Gabe had cancer in 2014 when he was 11 years old.
I would say it was a mother's intuition.
Being 11 and finding out I had brain cancer was like, I didn't know what to think just because I was pretty young.
I was going through treatment for breast cancer myself, and I had been given some brochures and came across a brochure on childhood cancer. And one of the signs and symptoms of that was vomiting along with headaches. And Gabe had been getting a lot of headaches and been throwing up a lot.
And that and the fact that he hadn't grown in several years started to kind of raise suspicions that something wasn't right. And through just talking to his doctors and eventually getting an MRI, they discovered a small tumor in his brain.
when we learned that he had a brain tumor, the doctors had taken us in to show us the imaging, and they told us it was about the size of like a jelly bean, and it was very round, and it didn't have the characteristics as cancer because it looked very smooth. It didn't look like it was growing. It looked like it was a new tumor. And so the doctors, both doctors, suggested that we just leave it in and watch it.
Because they were so sure that it wasn't cancer. They said it's small and it looks like it's not very aggressive. We don't think it's cancer.
And my husband and I didn't even have to look at each other, and we both said, take it out. And they said, well, we can do that. That's not a problem, but you have to understand that where the tumor's located, it could cause lots of different side effects if it was to be removed. It could affect his speech. He may have to learn to completely talk again, to walk again. They said that it would affect his hearing and his growth. And again, Jake and I didn't even look at each other, and we said, well, how soon can you get it out?
I was just so scared and terrified because it's just like cancer. It's just a big kind of scary word for an 11-year-old. So it was just really scary.
When they took it out, we got a call, and they said that it was grade 3. It wasn't benign, it wasn't grade 1, it wasn't grade 2. It was a very aggressive grade 3 cancer. And at that point, I think I went into shock.
It was kind of shocking, especially since my wife, Gabe's mom, had just been diagnosed, it was almost exactly a year earlier that she was diagnosed with cancer, so.
Well, when we had first met with the oncologist, I didn't hear a word she said. I was in shock, and thankfully my husband was listening. But at the end of the conversation, she said, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, is he gonna die?
I never thought I was gonna die. I just never thought that way. I just thought, I'm gonna get through this. I'm just gonna give it my all and just fight to the end. And I never let the word like death get into my head. I just kept it far away.
Cancer gave us the opportunity to see how strong Gabe really is. I think if anything, cancer probably made life more urgent for Gabe. Like Gabe feels like he wants to make the most of every single day.
He wanted to make the most of every minute that he had. And it's kind of funny because racing is timed in hundredths of seconds, and that's kind of Gabe. He doesn't want to waste a single hundredth of a second. So that one we don't want Gabe drive?
Sorry, yeah. This is your car, Gabe, right? Okay.
All right, cool.
Because we run Formula Fords, it's the only class at the moment. It has proven in the past to be a very successful class for someone to learn their trade. It teaches them all the basic things they need to learn, going straight from karting into cars.
Okay, so we're going to put a bag inside this. Pedals wise, now I can move those pedals from closer if you want, or you can move your whole body closer to the pedals if you want to.
Maybe a little bit closer.
Are you happy with that position in terms of your feet?
Yeah.
Okay, it has gone up behind your neck, your helmet, right? Yeah. I'd say another 5 minutes, okay, and then you can get out. I'd say.
Sounds good.
The position of where the gearbox lever is, you're going to get used to that position. It's not yeah, it's still too soft. Try and force it to go out around his shoulders. You know what I mean?
Sitting in that chair at the hospital and then getting a seat fitted into a race car, it's kind of walking into an unknown. Like going into cancer, I didn't know what was gonna happen to me. And now getting in a race car, I don't know what the season's gonna be like. I don't know if it's gonna be a bad race or a good race. And so it's really unknown, and it's kind of, it's intense and kind of scary at the same time. But, you kind of just have to just give it your all.
No, sorry, no. Keep the bum where it was, right? Okay? Just come forward, time more with your bum. Now, keep your bum there and just lift your back up, your back and your head towards the steering wheel. You want to pour the stuff down. Yeah, perfect. As much as you can. Hang on.
The first treatment I did was radiation. I did 48 days of radiation over in Seattle. Once I came back, I did 48 weeks of chemo.
1 week he would have chemo, the next week he had off, and the next week he'd have chemo again. So it was every other week for 48 weeks.
Life on a daily basis with Gabe was, it was constantly changing. There were a lot of days he was in the hospital. Different treatment types. He started out with radiation, and then from there he went into chemotherapy. But he was sick. He was always sick.
During that time, he would lose and then have to regain. So every 14 days, he would have to lose and regain up to 10% of his body weight. So he had a feeding tube that went in his nose and hooked up to it and went down to his stomach and hooked up to a pump with a nutrient pack in it, and we would have to, pump those nutrients into him, up to 3 times a day.
I think daily life was just trying to help him feel as comfortable as he could possibly feel. Try to keep, we tried to keep his mind off what was going on, and tried to keep his mind off of his pain, and tried to keep him occupied with other things.
I was out of school for years, and so I never could see my friends. I could never really see anyone, so it was really hard. But and just, as a kid, you want to go outside and play, and you want to be with your friends, and I couldn't do that. I was really sick. I had the energy, and I mean, if I got sick just a little bit, it'd be like a week in the hospital. So it was lonely, and it was hard, and being so young and wanting to do those things, it was hard to not be able to do the normal things of an 11-year-old.
This is my radiation mask. When I went to Seattle for radiation, they would put it on me.
When I had to go do radiation, they have this mask that they kind of mold around your face, and that terrified me because it kind of holds you down, and it makes you kind of feel claustrophobic.
So these back things right here would clip to the table, so this mask would be holding me down to the table, and then the radiation laser beam would go through my head, and this bald spot is where the laser beam went, and it's bald because it burnt the hair off.
My mindset was to enjoy every moment that I had with him, and to allow him to do the same thing, to have as much peace and joy as he could possibly have during that time. And he did spend a lot of time watching racing documentaries and talking about the future, talking about when he was able to finally get in the go-kart and drive. Gabe always had a love for racing ever since he was really tiny.
I've always loved racing. Like, my dad was a race car driver, but I've always been around cars.
He was always at the track with me. Ever since he was probably 6 or 7 years old, he would come to the racetrack with me and hang out in the pits, and he was always part of it when I would go down to the shop and work on the cars. He would tell people when he was going through treatment, they would say, well, what do you do? What are your hobbies? He says, well, I'm a go-kart racer. I race go-karts. Well, at that point, he had never raced a go-kart. He just told everybody that he raced go-karts because that's what he was planning on doing.
Ready to go racing here at Silverstone, lights out and away they go. And a very even start there for all of the front runners. On the left is Rory Smith, on the right the white and blue car is Jordan Dempsey, and Dempsey might be in danger of losing the lead there on that outside line through Abbey Corner. Through the right they go, number 33 is Ben Cochran.
Considering he went into the Formula Ford season with absolutely zero racing experience and finished right in the mid-pack on his very first race at Silverstone, I could not be more proud of him.
It was a really good weekend, you know. I feel like we learned a lot. We learned a lot going forward into Knock Hill in a couple weeks, and we just know what to expect now. We know what to expect with starts. We know what to expect with safety cars and just everything. So I'm feeling my confidence after this weekend's way up. And yeah, it was just a really good learning experience. There's a lot of things I look back and I wish went a little better for my first rookie race. But there's some things to look on the bright side and some things to be a little disappointed about. But I mean, that's what racing's all about. I look back when I had cancer and how I felt finishing cancer. It was kind of like a soldier coming back from war. You know, you don't know what to do after this, like 2 years of battling. Your life was go, 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 and you're fighting this terrible thing, and then you get done and you're like, okay, what do I do now? And you kind of get scared and you kind of just hold back.
During treatment, you have a clear goal as to what you need to do, and that is to get that child well. And that's all you can think of. You can't think outside of that.
Now, what does life mean to me now? Because I have gone through this and come to this realization of knowing that life is finite, it's fragile, it's, you know, and people get stuck in that spot. Like, what do I do now? How do I go back to a normal life when I realize all of these things? And so it causes some people to have depression. Other people are so afraid that it's going to come back that they get anxiety, or like a soldier coming back from war, they experience PTSD symptoms.
I mean, going through cancer, you have people all around you. You have doctors all around you directing you and supporting you. And then once you finish cancer, you know, people congratulate you, and that's really it. And you don't really get any more backing. But finishing cancer was probably one of the hardest parts because I was honestly depressed, and that's when I needed the most help and the most direction of where to go from people.
I think they've been so focused on treatment and just getting well that it's like, okay, now what do I do? All of a sudden there's so much catching up to do because that child misses so many things in life that are normal. It's like, you know, being able to feed themselves when they're hungry, do chores. They're not doing any of that because they're so sick. And so all of a sudden they realize that they're so far behind their peers they're not able to do the same things. They haven't grown. It feels like life for them is just stuck, and their peers have moved on, and they're growing, and they're changing, and they're learning.
I want to show people that, you know, don't get scared, don't hold back, and, you know, you can do something extraordinary, and don't let cancer define you and hold you back from doing something you love.
There is hope. There is life after cancer. It's really hard for children who have been fighting this battle for so long to get back out there in the world and say, okay, now where's my place?
Having something to want to do, like racing, being my dream, that was that was what kind of got me out of that depression, and like, it was a goal and something to look forward to, and so that helps a lot. And so that's kind of what I help kids with is, you know, I know it's really hard when you finish and you don't know what to do, but if you love something so much, then you should chase it and not let that hold you back.
One of the reasons why Gabe wanted to be a race car driver was because of his experience with cancer, knowing that his life is fragile and his life was meant for more than just going to a 9-to-5 job or going to college or high school or
Gabe's message behind racing for people is it's a message of hope, and he wants people to know that if he can do it, then they definitely can do it.
Not only have you got to be a great driver in terms of driving, you've also got to understand how the car mechanically works in order to give the feedback to the engineers. And if you don't learn that, or get a feel for that, you're missing a trick.
I think you turn into still a fraction too early. Like, he should never take that move because he's compromised you and he's compromised himself. Good, that's better. See the way you held off the throttle? See that, Jake? It was much better.
The differences between driving the kart and a Formula Ford, it's a lot more about, you find way more time under braking. There's a lot of weight transfer where you have to transfer all the weight from the rear to the front. Where karting, you don't really have to worry about that weight transfer. It's kind of just stab on the brake, get back on the gas, and go. Where cars, you have to think more about braking. You kind of brake 100% and then kind of take the brakes at 50% to get that weight transfer, and then you have to kind of roll on the throttle, because if you stab the throttle like a cart, you could spin out. So there's a lot more to think about.
So Gabe is exploring those in a very, I wouldn't say hold himself back, but he's learning the limitations of the Formula Ford.
Still having struggling with braking and stuff and getting that technique right. Yeah, but
What do you think it is with the braking?
just the feel thing is just completely different than what I'm used to, and just trying to feel it.
Are you attacking the brake?
I like to think I am, yeah, but sometimes it's not enough, and yeah, it's just a total different feel. It's just something I gotta get used to, and
Right.
yeah, it's a difficult technique.
Well, it'll all come together. You just keep working hard. Keep working hard and doing what Bernard says, and I have to believe it'll come together.
I got my Make-A-Wish trip after cancer, and I went to the F1 race in Texas, and I was around the drivers, and I was in the pits, and you know, just the smells, seeing the drivers, they were like heroes to me at like that age, and that's when I really fell in love with it. And after that, I was like, I want to be a race car driver, and so it wasn't until after cancer that I realized, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
After we finished his Wish trip from Wishing Star, which was to attend the 2016 F1 Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, he was Nico Rosberg's special guest for the week, and we were sitting in the Austin airport, and my wife said to Gabe as a joke, "Now that you've had your big party and we're all done with cancer, what are you gonna do with the rest of your life?" And he said, "Well, I'm gonna be a race car driver." So my wife said, "What are we gonna do?" Every 13-year-old wants to be a race car driver, and we'll have fun doing this, and once he's a teenager, it'll wear off and he'll go do something else.
Right when I finished cancer, I was ready to get back in the go-kart, so we found another go-kart, bought it, and started doing practice, and then I went for my first club race, and I got dead last. Went into my second club race, and I didn't even finish. I crashed, and then after that, something clicked, and I won like 8 races in a row at the club, and won the championship my rookie year, and that's kind of how it all started. After that, my dad was like really impressed, and I really fell in love with it after feeling that winning feel, and then I was like, okay, let's keep moving forward and see where we can go.
He won a lot of races and kept wanting to do bigger and bigger races and then cars, and now here we are.
There's just something about racing that when I'm in the car and like when I have my helmet and my suit on and stuff, everything kind of just goes away. And I just, like, nothing bad is in my head. I'm just doing the thing I love, and I'm in my happy place, and I'm at peace, and just everything outside of racing is just gone. Just like all the bad and negativity in the world, and it kind of just goes away, and so it's like my at peace place.
When I see pictures of Gabe from while he was going through treatment, and then I see him now, I'm just overcome with gratitude. I am so thankful that he went from being barely able to walk up and down the stairs at home or down to the shop where we work on our cars to being literally a world-class athlete. I mean, he is literally has the fitness of a world-class athlete now compared to a little boy who couldn't even walk 300 feet. He started working out with a personal trainer, and through that whole process of working out to really get his physical fitness well, it pushed him into puberty, and it started him growing and kind of kick-started his whole system. And the doctors were actually incredibly shocked. They couldn't believe that he didn't end up needing any of the therapies that a lot of cancer survivors need, young cancer survivors need to get them growing again.
Being fit in the race car is a super important thing.
Climbing the racing ladder isn't just about driving.
I train every morning for about an hour and a half, just working out like core workouts, neck workouts, because those are all super big, like those are muscles you really need in a race car. It's really all about your neck and core because there's so many G's. And I just ride my bike a lot. I run a lot because some races are really long. And the F1 race, they can last for hours and hours. Endurance races could be a whole 24 hours. And so if your endurance is not up, then, you could lose a lot of pace. You could be really slow just because you're so tired. I mean, the doctors, they always told me that you're not gonna be able to do this or that. Like, they told me I wouldn't be able to race or I wouldn't have the strength to race and stuff, and I still did it. So I just want to show people that whatever you put your mind to, you can do it, and that you can do something extraordinary, and that nothing should hold you back. If you want to be an F1 driver, then go chase it and do something extraordinary. I just think life is really short, and to kind of just waste it, and I think we should all try to push for something extraordinary and something that we love and not let fear hold us back.
Cancer maybe has focused his life, made him realize that this is what I want to do, and I've got today, right now I've got today to do it. Tomorrow I'll have tomorrow, and I want to start now though.
So this year I'm racing in the Formula Ford British National Championship, and it's a F1600 car, and I'm racing for Team Dolan. It's a high-stress job, and you have to give it everything you have, and you can't slack for a second.
Snap of the race again, extends his lead by about 2 more tenths of a second. This sensational battle for 4th place back with Jake Callum starting to check out now. New fast snap of the race. I think now it's gone to possibly Callum. Oh, goodness me! Oh, goodness me.
Huge crash at Paddock Hill Bend. That just leaves the other Team Dolan car, Gabe Tesch, running.
When the crash happened, I had just literally walked away. I was watching the race, and I have a really hard time watching. And I had told Jake, I said, I have to walk away. I'm getting too stressed out. And so I had walked away, and then I heard all the commotion. And so I came running back to the track, and as I was coming back to the track, this man was coming my way, and he says, oh, that was fatal for sure. And I did see the footage later, and I'm just so thankful that those people are okay.
Racing is a dangerous sport, and being in a position to feel and live like we've almost lost him a few times, the thought crossed our mind. But the most important lesson I think we learned there is we have no control.
I mean, I do sometimes tease him and say, out of all the sports, why did you have to choose racing? But he loves it, and I know he does. And it makes me happy to see him doing something that he enjoys doing. But it's terrifying to me. Racing scares me.
When you see another driver doing it that you're not emotionally invested in, like your own child, your own kid, you're like, oh yeah, they're fine, they're gonna make that corner. Then when you see your kid go into a corner and you think maybe he's going too fast, it's a lot of anxiety. You're like, oh my gosh, is he gonna make it? You can just as easily die walking down the street as you can in a race car.
The school day was just getting started when the sound of gunshots filled the air at Freeman High near Spokane.
10 o'clock this morning, some Freeman High School students had barely arrived on campus when it happened.
It was Gabe's first year back to school. It was his freshman year in high school. And the very first week of school, I was actually standing there waiting for the bus, like I always do, and I see the bus come up the road, and I yelled, "Bus!" and Gabe comes running up, and, "Bye, Mom," and he just ran out the door, and all of a sudden I had the strongest feeling that I needed to stop him, and I needed to pray with him. And I actually ran to go stop him, and he was already gone. He was up the driveway. And I literally stopped right then, and I got down on my knees, and I said, "God, would you just please protect him today?" And then I got back up, I hopped in the shower, and I forgot all about it.
Now we know a student brought multiple weapons into the school. When he tried to fire his first weapon, it jammed.
He went to his next weapon. A student walked up to him, engaged him, and that student was shot.
I'm talking to my friends and stuff, and I got this really sick feeling, so I walked in the classroom and I just sat down and kind of hanged out, and all of a sudden I heard these terrifying screams, and a gun went off, and I went into shock, like I didn't know what to think. And just after beating cancer and getting back to school after this 2 years of battling, it was just unreal. It was just what the heck.
When I got out of the shower, I had missed a call from my friend Katie, who was a school bus driver at Freeman. And she was crying, and she said, "Sherry, there's been a shooting at the high school." And I knew immediately that Gabe was somehow involved. I knew that he was there. And I think I screamed, and I dropped my phone. My daughter and I got in the car, and we rushed to the school along with every other parent. And the cars were literally lined up down the highway, and we parked the car and we ran. And once we got to the school, they had all the children in the football field, and they allowed us to go, maybe 10 or 12 people at a time, to go get our child. And at that time we knew they had already notified the parents of the deceased and of the wounded, so we knew that Gabe was okay. When I walked onto the football field and I saw him, the first thing he said to me was, "Mom, God protected me." And I said, "I know, buddy, I know he did." And he goes, "No, you don't understand." He goes, "I was standing in the hallway," and he goes, "I always wait to the very last minute to go into class because I like to talk and socialize." And he said, "I was standing right next to the shooter, and I looked down at the bag that the shooter had." And he goes, "And for a split second, I wondered, what's in that bag?" And he said, and all of a sudden I felt sick. And he goes, I had to walk into the class early because I thought that I was gonna pass out. And the minute that Gabe walked in the classroom, the shooter pulled out the gun and started shooting.
The sheriff says an armed student showed up at school today.
The shooter may be on the second level. Suspect in his teens.
Before the gunman was arrested, the sheriff says he was stopped by a courageous school staff member. Authorities have not named the alleged shooter, but a friend tells reporters he had been watching documentaries about school shootings. It was an emotional day that played out in real time on live television.
I thought to myself, you know, how does he do this? How does he overcome cancer and then overcome a shooting?
Going into high school was me literally coming back to school full time. And so going, like the shooting, like literally was a week of me like coming back to school after not going to school for 3 years.
Anything can happen at any time, and you can't live in fear that something's going to take your life.
Gabe he's a fantastic kid. He really nice personality, very easy to get on with, never moans, never gives out. As a driver, he is cautious, which is not a bad thing. However, one needs to explore the limitations. Gabe Tesch is taking part in the festival. It'll be tough for him. Even to get to the final in itself will be a major achievement.
To be where I am today was a lot of sacrifices, and not just me sacrificing things, but my family sacrificing things. You never see your friends, or you never really are able to hang out with your friends because it's a full-time job. You know, always looking for partners, always training, racing pretty much every weekend. You know, my dad runs a business, but also run me as my manager.
And my role right now is kind of PR. I'm just reaching out to companies and businesses and corporations and individuals and just telling them about Gabe and sharing his story with them and sharing his story with anybody I can in hopes that you know, people turn up that want to help him. Doing everything with Gabe for his racing career and making the sacrifices and doing all the traveling and spending the time with him, they're worth it because we are at a point at one time where we didn't know if we'd ever get another day with him.
It's so emotional to just think about all the sacrifices and what it took to get to where we are now.
We could lose everything through this and spend everything we have and not have a retirement, but I don't think I would get to the final years of my life and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
they go. Yes, Tom Mills almost scrambled through on the inside going into Lovefield, but...
Once I finished cancer, at first I had to do MRIs every 2 months, and then it was every 6 months, and now it's every once a year. And so that has been really nice. It's kind of like a stepping stone. Since it's only once a year now, it feels like I can kind of leave cancer in the past. So that's been really nice. I see so many familiar faces, and they even remember me, and that surprises me every time because I wouldn't think they remember me because they have so many kids coming in every day and new kids just all the time, and so for them to remember me, that's pretty special to me.
You just look fantastic.
Thank you
I know
so
I
much.
talked to your dad a couple times over the summer while you were gone, and just
Okay, cool.
he was kind of keeping me posted and updated on what you had going on. So
That's trying to hurt. Thanks for watching that.
Yeah,
That's really cool that you.
I missed you at the Acorn.
To go from wearing a radiation mask and now to a racing helmet, I'm just thankful to be where I'm at. A lot of kids lose their life to cancer and don't make it to the finish line. You care so much about your patients, you care so much about me now, and when me and my family were going through cancer, and it just showed me that you were on our side and that you wanted to fight for us, and to see your mindset behind that was really cool. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I wish I could help out more because sometimes I'm like, man, I didn't really go through that much compared to what other kids are going through and other families are going through.
He feels like there's a lot of people watching, especially a lot of kids that have cancer that he's made relationships with, and he's kind of an inspiration to those kids. And he feels like if he's not living up to his potential, then it's gonna let those kids down as well.
Every year, Spokane used to put on a vintage racing event called the Festival of Speed. Every year they pick a new charity to raise money for. This year, the charity for the event is the American Childhood Cancer Organization of the Inland Northwest. People call it ACOIN. They offered to let Gabe race at the festival. It's just an exhibition race, but it's an honor for Gabe to be able to drive a neat old car, and hopefully will bring awareness and it'll bring attention and exposure to what the American Childhood Cancer Organization is doing.
It was really scary having Gabe go so far away to race. Not just because, you know, he was all the way in England, but because he was on the racetrack and we weren't there. And you kind of feel like you're totally out of control, you know. And with the time difference, he was racing in the middle of the night here. And so those nights were impossible to actually get any sleep, you know. We stayed up all night watching the race and praying for him. But it was definitely very scary to have him that far away.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Beat, man. It's like almost 1 in the morning here, and that makes it. You're getting up, and it's the middle of the night here. But I was up, so I wanted to call you. Wish you a good day today.
What are you doing up so late?
I'm just thinking about you and thinking about the track and wishing I could be there to help you.
Halfway through the season, especially towards the end of the season, I started getting really homesick. Just missing my family and friends, because, I mean, it was hard not having that support at the racetrack. My teammates, they had their family and friends, and it was just me kind of alone. And so to see that, it started getting really difficult. The only support I had was just looking on my phone and seeing some text messages and stuff.
It was hard because we knew that he was feeling very lonely. It was his first time away from home and away from his family and friends. I can tell that he really has a hard time when he feels like he's not living up to the expectation that he puts on himself.
We don't believe in you. You know that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, how long you guys head out to the track?
Yeah, I think we're about to go right now, so I'll catch you later.
All right, dude. Love you, bud.
Love you too. Bye. We've all worked so hard to get to this point. My dad and my mom have sacrificed so much to get me to where I am. So I never wanted to disappoint them because, like I said, they put their whole life into making my dream come true. And so there was times where I got anxious because I wanted to show them that I'm good and that I wanted to give back to them what they gave to me.
I was never, ever, ever disappointed in Gabe or his results. It saddened me to see him be so hard on himself sometimes. He handled himself away from home and away from everything that he knew, away from his family, his friends, his girlfriend. I think he is incredibly mature in how, as a 19-year-old, how he handled himself, how professional he was with the team. He took care of his responsibilities with his partners and sponsors, and he controlled his emotions. I mean, he had a lot of weekends that didn't really go very, very well, and he stayed cool and collected himself and got back out there and did it again.
I just kind of have to push through and realize this is what I want to do, and it's not always going to be easy, and I'm going to have to be away from home and friends a lot of time, and I'll have my bad days and good days, but I know this is what I love to do, and so I just got to keep kind of pushing forward.
Gabe feels like if he doesn't perform to a certain level, then he's letting his dad down. And not only that, he's letting his sponsors down, he's letting his fans down. And I think there's just so much expectation that he's created from everyone.
Did you enjoy it?
It was all right. It was kind of just survival, to be honest.
You had a few good old scraps out there.
Yeah, it was fun.
That white and blue and red one, maybe called, that Van Diemen?
Yeah.
You were swapping places.
He he's 1/10 of a second off per corner is what divides him from being in the middle of the pack to being at the front. And 1/10 of a second is a snap of a finger. And when you put it into those terms, it seems like, oh, that's not much. But when you're on the track trying to get that 10th, it's really hard.
He's still learning about the car, he's still learning about his driving, plus he's got to learn about all these new tracks.
Honest at the posts. Yeah. The general idea is for the whole lap, you must only be focusing on the posts on entry and exit, or entry, apex and exit. Because later you're riding a push bike and with no hands. Yeah. It's very easy. Yeah. So your brain will adapt very quickly if we train it with perseverance. Okay. All right, so away we go.
One of the things that you were wrestling with is the same thing that everybody else wrestles with. Because you so desperately want to be successful doing this thing you're doing, you were so worried about the outcome of what you were doing, worried about results, preoccupied with that. You had a whole season of racing in Europe. How did you deal with that when it comes to this idea of results and what you were focused on? Do you think you made progress, or do you still sometimes struggle with that?
I think there was times I wrestled with it, of kind of dealing with kind of the fear of failure and trying to get this result, and just kind of my own mind holding me back. There were times where I really struggled with that, and then times where I didn't and I was on my game. So I'd say I was back and forth with it, but I think I've grown this year just because of that.
This story would be almost boring if you just went out there and kicked everybody's butt all the time. You know, this is about you growing and learning and striving, because that's what real people do. They grow, they learn, they strive, and they hit the streets again the next day after a failure.
It's interesting, when you visited with me, one of the things that you commented were about some of the pictures in my office. And you saw one of Ayrton Senna that was signed by him to me. And I don't know if you knew it before, but I worked with Senna for many years. And from the very first year that he was involved in Formula One, when I was teaching at McGill University. And I look at his development because he's followed a very similar path to you. He did a lot of open wheel racing in England in his early years in the very same series that you're competing in. So you guys are, you know, not in a dissimilar path. And I think that's one of the things that Ayrton was very, very good at, motivating and inspiring people to pursue their dreams. And what a lot of people don't know is that his generosity actually wasn't just in the end of his life, but in fact his whole life, but it was done anonymously. No one knew that he was providing those resources. It was done anonymously, and then ultimately the foundation was created and so on. Yeah. So I think you're on a mission to help people who have gone through the same kinds of challenges that you have, and you're pushing through the other end of it. And thank goodness you're healthy and the cancer is behind you. And that's, I think, inspiring for those people who are struggling with the same challenges, wondering if they'll ever get a chance to chase their dreams.
Nice to meet you, Nick. How old are you guys? Okay, awesome, yeah. 8, okay. Cool. You guys want to try this out?
He can't wait. He's been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
Gabe co-hosted a cancer event at a local car dealership this year, and interacting with the other families and the other kids that have gone through or are going through what we went through can bring a lot of satisfaction for Gabe. I know he loves it. He loves being an encouragement and a role model, and telling these kids and these other young adults that you've got this, you can go through this. And Gabe came out really well. He was incredibly blessed by how he came out of his cancer treatment. He doesn't have a lot of side effects that the doctors told us that he was going to have. They didn't happen for Gabe. And so sometimes you'll see other families and kids that maybe weren't as fortunate as we were, and it breaks your heart in a way.
I had a lot of the moms come up to me and just thank me. Thank you so much that you're here, and thank you that Gabe's here. And it's so inspiring to me, and it's so inspiring to my child. And I also had a lot of moms say, I wish my child had something, you know, like Gabe has racing. I wish my child had something. And so my hope is that Gabe will continue to just inspire them to go out and try something.
Yeah, so you know how he kept his foot on his last lap? Just whenever that happens, just make sure you let go of the steering wheel. And then once it stops, you get back on, and then just ride start back on track. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, cool.
There was a lot of emotion at the event last month, and lots of tears, lots of smiles on the kids' faces. And I think a lot of that has to do with Gabe is an example of hope to them, and Gabe does a really great job at relating to these kids and building them up. And I think for them, they see Gabe and they think, okay, he's gone through the exact same thing that we're going through. And look at him. I mean, look at, he's got that smile on his face, and he's so personable, and he really loves these kids. And I think that shows through.
When you have cancer and you go through all these things, you feel really out of control and lost, and you kind of just feel like you're on this roller coaster ride. When racing, you feel really in control of everything that happens, and so you feel completely in control. And so I just love that feeling of being at peace and like completely in control of the situation. To be able to go to the UK and race, that was definitely a dream come true. I was really emotional just being able to look back on that and seeing how far, not just I've come, but my whole family, you know, they supported me all the way from having cancer to being able to get here. And so it was just really emotional thinking how much we've gone through and how much we worked for this. And to finally have that moment was like the best feeling ever.
It was pretty exciting to see Gabe racing at the next level. It's a dream come true for him. He always said since he first started karting that he wants to go to Europe and race, and now he's went to Europe and raced.
Halfway through the season, the team workshop, there was a fire, and it literally destroyed the whole shop. Everything that Bernard owned, multiple cars, tools, machines to work on the cars and everything were all gone. And so for the team, it was a huge setback.
We're in attendance at a large fire at an industrial unit in Sandy Lane, Martlesham.
There are a lot of times when I feel like Gabe cannot get a break. It's one thing after the other. The fire, the shop in England.
It just shows that life is full of challenges, and things are always going to pile up against you. They're always going to stack up against you, and you've got to stay focused, and you have to be determined. And if to do extraordinary things, you have to be completely committed to it.
everything that Bernard worked for was just completely gone, and there was nothing, it was just ashes, so there was nothing we could maybe scrap for and find. And so it made me kind of just heartbroken for Bernard, because he lost his whole life's work in just that one fire. And so it was hard, and it definitely just kind of made me realize how short life is, and anything can happen at any moment. You can you lose your life or your whole life's work, or just, it's like life can be a flip of a switch sometimes. All of a sudden everything can be good, and then the next day it can all be gone. And so it was a hard realization.
He was winning most of the races that he was racing in, and doing really well. Then he went to this new thing in England, away from family, friends, and everything he knows, and his results weren't as good as he wanted them to be. And it seemed like the harder he pushed for those results, the worse the results became.
Even though this is hard, and we may not make it where we're planning on making it, we will make it.
And it's not about where you end up, it's about the fact that you laid it all out on the line to get there.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like Bernard said at the beginning of the season, that the tough thing about racing is there can only be one winner, but there's still 20 or 30 other people on the track. You're not always gonna make it, you're not always gonna reach your dreams or reach your goals, but you've gotta try. You're surely never gonna make it if you never try. You can chase any dream you want, and it's not so much whether you make it to the top or not, it's that you spend your life going for it and not just sitting on the sidelines, not just waiting for something to happen, but going out and chasing a dream. Success isn't measured by where you end your journey. Success is measured how you progress through your journey. And so, you know, my hope for Gabe is that he finds his spot in the motorsport world. Nothing's easy. It's going to be a lot of struggle and a lot of fighting and a lot of clawing and scraping to get to where he wants to get, but he's not going to quit. And stay tuned, watch what happens next, see what happens, see if we make it or not, see if Gabe makes it or not, see how far he makes it. Believe in him, believe in yourselves, and I hope that maybe some people after watching the film will say, hey, there's something I want to do, and I'm going to go and do it now.
What do you think about cancer?
I think it's stupid.
Cancer's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Give me a thumbs down on cancer. What's that? Thumbs down on cancer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Being a race car driver for me is not about going fast on race weekends. I mean, trust me, I love driving these two cars as fast as possible, but for me it's more about being able to give inspiration and hope to people out there in dark times like I was. Most people don't realize this, but unlike other sports, drivers have to be able to bring in sponsorship and supporters to the team. If you're a company or organization that values community, inspiring others, and giving encouragement, and also loves the thrill of 40 cars driving down into turn 1, then you are the perfect fit to partner with me and do something extraordinary. Thanks for watching. If you don't already follow me on all my social media platforms, please follow me for more updates and information.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.